Good evening, Ryan.
Evening, Helmets. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. How is your Tuesday?
Yeah, good. I made it to the gym today, so that was first for a little while.
And
it was good.
Was it a good session or just a lazy one?
No, I put some effort in. 45 minutes on the cross trainer, so just trying to ease my way back in because we came back from the Nordic Domain Conference that was on at the beginning of May. So that was really good. Met some people there. Braden was there. Braden Pollock, James Isles from GoDaddy, Mark Giroffi's Mr. Premium. He was there. So it was good to meet some new people, and it was a really good event. And then I was off to Croatia with friends. So lots of eating and drinking. And then I came back and thought I better hit the gym before NamesCon. We're going to NamesCon on Monday.
Have to be in shape.
So, well, just need to get back on it, really. Too many beers, too much food. And I know Barry's watching, and Barry's probably on the cross trainer or running machine now, so he needs to.
Also,
we've got a challenge. We've got a challenge for the London Domain Summit to who can get ripped. So we'll see what happens there.
Ripped. So we can expect that you guys will be comparing your 6-packs or 1-packs.
Maybe 1-pack, but a smaller 1-pack.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and amazing professional UK domainer and domain broker and investor, Ryan. Ryan, you are part of how many companies? Just before the stream, we started.
Maybe 10 companies.
10 companies.
We've got the .uk group, so that's myself, Jeff, and Mo. There's 3 companies there, and then we've got EW3N, which is like the .com version of .uk group. So there's 2 or 3 companies there, and then I've got 4 finance companies that I run with my 2 brothers and family. So probably about 10, I think.
And today we'll be talking about domain name financing. Could you explain? Are you licensed or are you licensed to kill? Can you actually, are you regulated by FCA, and are you able to do the loans?
So probably start off with a disclaimer.
Yes, let us start with this disclaimer. And yeah.
So, disclaimer is this is not financial advice. It's for entertainment purposes only. Do your own research. And so that's the disclaimer. And probably I'll give you a little bit of a backstory of how I've been in finance and where we're at now. So at college, I did maths and further maths for A levels.
Okay.
And then I went to university and did a degree in mathematics. So I did 2 years. Then I set up a business. And then I worked in a bank as an underwriter.
Yes.
And then I set up a couple of businesses. And then in 2012, we set up a finance brokerage company with my older brother. So arranging mortgages for people, typically expats overseas. And then 2 years ago, I moved straight into full-time domaining. So buying and selling domains, brokering domains. And then on our finance company, we're regulated by the FCA because it's a regulated in the UK. For on the domain side of things, it's unregulated. So there is no regulated body in the UK.
Okay.
So on that side, it's not regulated. It's a new asset class for starters. I think a lot of banks and stuff are looking to move into the area, but at the moment they're kind of looking for someone to prove the theory of how it works, especially in the UK. Because at the moment so just understand the market of where things are at. You've got America who will lend money. Okay. There's 1 or 2 companies there. Their lending is probably $10 to $20 million a year. So quite a small niche area. China will also lend money on domain names. Their market size like 100 million to 200 million. So they're quite big, although it's shrunk by 10 times in the last 12 to 18 months. And then in the UK, there's no one lending money, which is kind of the area we're looking to step into. The UK is quite a unique place because we've got one set of regulation, one set of legal system versus America, where there's kind of a variance by state. So the UK is it's been a bit underplayed in the last 10 years for domaining, but I think we're going to make big strides over the next couple of years in the UK. And China, basically because it's closed currency, you couldn't be American or European and borrow money from China. So we're kind of looking to bridge the gap. And in terms of like cost-wise,
Yes.
probably for China, you're looking at 1% a month if you're looking to borrow against a domain name.
Okay.
America is 1.25% a month, and then we'll be around about 1.5% a month. So slightly more expensive because the cost of capital in the UK is more.
So China is 1%, States are 1.25, and you are 1.5.
Yeah, so that's assuming like on a prime, a vanilla kind of thing, a domain that we're comfortable with the value of it at a reasonable loan to value. So if it's, let's say the domain's worth 100,000, if someone wants to borrow 50,000, that'd be classed as vanilla. So they're kind of comparables across the different areas. In terms of America, obviously you've got Domain Capital. They're kind of the gold standard of domain lending. They've been in it for like 15 years. They've completed a lot of loans, and they're really good for the kind of the high end prime stuff. They're really good. Whereas we're kind of looking to take a bit more of a holistic view on not just domain names, but websites, social media profiles, apps, domain parking portfolios. We're kind of looking at kind of all the types of digital assets that someone might want to borrow against.
Yes. So good evening, everybody. If you are watching for the first time, these are friendly live streams without pre-planned questions. I'm always trying to avoid that path when somebody will say, hey, I can give you some questions that you can ask me, and I'm always for the natural flow, the normal questions. And the best thing is that these are the live streams, and please use this technology and ask your questions, or just say good evening or good day from Arizona. Good evening. And yes, domain manage. Evening, gents. Good topic. And of course, those who are watching, you can start asking your questions. And let's try to make this evening about you asking the questions to Ryan. And shall we jump in? And here's the tweet. So this one, and probably I need to zoom in. So website domain overdraft issued. Loan amount 100,000. Interest not 1.5, 15%.
Yeah.
Term 12 months. Interest only. Jurisdiction UK. And this is can you comment this, please?
Yeah. So this was our second loan.
Okay. Yes.
The company basically are doing a refinance, but they needed access to some capital quickly.
Okay.
So what we've done is given them the overdraft is effectively flexible. So when you look at the interest rate, you think, wow, that's quite high.
Yes.
But one of the things you've got to understand that there's a cost of originating the loan. So that means getting the legals, the contracts tied up.
Okay.
There's obviously a cost of capital, and then there's a cost of our business. The overdraft is fully flexible, so they could draw down the money. They could draw down anything up to 100,000 at one time.
Okay.
Whatever's in the account, you're only going to pay interest for the amount that you borrow.
Oh,
they may only use it for 3 months.
Wow. Yes.
And the company behind it they're quite a big company, but they just needed access to quick cash. So we stepped in while they're arranging their refinance. So although the rate's high, it covers things like if they only borrow the money for, say, 3 months.
Okay, and those and people who want to watch, I will paste the link. I'll paste the link to the Twitter as well. Okay, so you actually issued overdraft.
Yeah.
And how does it work? Did you give them a card or?
No. So what happens is we approve the loan. So generally there's 3 parts to the loan. There's an origination, which someone comes to us and says, look, we want to borrow some money. So then I've got to understand what they're looking to borrow, how they're going to repay, how long they want it for. Then I package it all together. It goes to underwriting, which is a separate department. Underwriting will look through, make sure the domains or the things we're taking charge of are owned by the person, and do some of the legal checks behind the scenes.
Yes.
Then it gets presented to the credit committee, and the credit committee will then sign off and give the exact rate as to what we'd be willing to loan against.
Okay.
So there's 3 parts to it.
And where is the money?
Oh,
When
so
I have an overdraft on my debit card, I hate credit cards. Then I know where the money is.
Yeah. So, well, we use the word overdraft to keep it simple for people, but essentially there's an account with money in. They send us an email and say, look, can we release X amount of pounds?
Okay.
And then we'll back it to them within the hour or generally next working day. So they've drawn down the whole facility at the moment.
Okay.
So for them,
so they have actually taken the whole 100,000.
They've taken the whole 100,000.
Okay.
So they can keep that for up to 12 months. If they want to repay some money back, the interest will only be payable on the amount that's borrowed. So that's why it's like an overdraft. It's quite flexible.
Yes. And it means they are paying 15,000 a month.
Yeah. Yeah. Interest only.
Interest only. Yes.
The other thing is that
yes, sorry.
No, I was going to say the reason why they're borrowing is because partly it's a refinance and partly they're buying another company. So there's big upside for them in having access to the capital. It's kind of like this is a professional product for professional people.
Okay.
Whereby they're going to benefit on the upside.
Yes.
In whatever they do. So that's a specific example.
So they have found a very, very good deal. Deal, and they needed cash quickly.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you can't get 100K quickly.
No, I mean, as a business, you can't. It's incredibly tricky. I mean, for us as a business, we use Wise Bank because we take a lot of different currencies. So when you're with Wise Bank, we've got no borrowing facility, no credit cards, no overdrafts, no loans.
Yes. Okay.
And business finance generally is it is complicated and it takes time. If you're looking to go to a bank, then it can take a long time. A bit like a mortgage. If you go and get a mortgage, it might take you 6 months. You need to have a survey, you need to go through legals, you need to valuation, all the different kind of jumps. Whereas this is relatively quick finance, secured only against the domain name and the website files. So we complete it within 48 hours.
Okay, and while all the comments are welcome, even something like this, but let's stay professional and me too. Let us stand in line, all 3 of us. And good evening, everybody. Today's questions, the quality of the questions will determine where we go. Either we go the joke way, we can always choose the route. So you guys who ask the question, ladies or gents who ask the question, will determine which route we take. Do we go the jokes or the joke way, or do we ask the business-related questions and actually get some knowledge and value out of it? Thank you. Okay. There was then it was said security, domain name plus website.
Yeah. So we took charge of the domain name. So we moved it into our GoDaddy account.
Okay.
So everything stays the same. They've got 120 email addresses being used. Everything stays exactly the same.
Okay.
The website, we went in and took a copy of the files in the database.
Okay.
And then we've got them in cold storage in case anything happens.
Yes. Okay. And then a quick one. I didn't know. So Mary, Buxton, keep it down to us. Okay. Who is Buxton? God knows. Okay. Okay. Yes, I accept Pepe Bitcoin. Okay. Pepe is for anarchy. And here we go. Domain manage. Could our users, domainers, have link from our landing pages direct to Digital Candy to allow buyers a finance option? That's an interesting one.
Yes, we would. And we'd pay referral fees as well. If someone introduced a client who's looking to borrow money, we'd pay a referral fee. At the moment, we're kind of in closed beta testing.
Okay.
So probably we're looking at a soft launch in July and then full launch in August. Because there's quite a lot of policy. We're still going through some legal stuff. There's quite a lot of policies that have to be written like a mandate as to what kind of assets we're willing to lend on, how much we'll lend, so that it's quite clear guidelines for people.
Yes. Okay. And who is lending? Digital Candy or .uk group?
Digital Candy, both loans that we've issued are our own money, 100% our own money.
And is Digital Candy UK a domain, a company itself, or is it just a brand name?
Yeah. No, it's a limited company.
Okay.
We've got an office in London, telephone number.
Yes.
We're probably we're part of why we're in closed beta launches. We're going to have probably have a separate website for it, because Digital Candy UK is going to be a marketplace, so that will go live later in the year. It may integrate with it, but there'll be a standalone product.
Okay, now that's awesome. So purpose was cash flow. Okay, and now another one. Now let us see another case study. And please, of course, ask your questions. And what was this one? Was it domain? Yes. And here was the second one. So also on May the 18th, domain loan issued, loan amount 50,000, repayment amount 75,000, and security for domain names, jurisdiction USA, lender Digital Candy UK.
Yeah. So basically, this one, once again, when you look at the 75,000, you think that's quite a lot of, so $25,000 interest. The thing you have to understand is that the legals and origination costs plus cost of capital is why on a smaller loan for a short period of time looks more than it probably is.
Yes.
Because the costs involved that we have to bear, because each agreement is bespoke. We have to go through our solicitors. We have to obviously make sure that not only that the people who are borrowing the money sign an agreement, but if we have investors in the background that we use their funds, then we would have a contract with them as well. Both of these loans we're funded with kind of our own company money. So just to get a couple of case studies in there. But that particular deal was 4 domain names. One of them has had a 6-figure offer. The value of the domains is probably low to mid 6 figures. A buyer got an opportunity to acquire the domains at a discounted price.
Yes.
And basically wanted cash quickly. So that was about 4-day turnaround. And then in the background, they're moving their money around and they'll repay in 75 days.
Okay. So buyer actually found a very, very sweet deal. Domain names were, so there were 4 domains that came together. Yes.
Yeah.
And then he needed cash to get that deal done.
Yeah.
He went to you guys.
Yeah.
You gave him or her 50,000.
Correct.
He acquired those domain names, and at the moment, those domain names are under your control.
Correct.
And
so
he needs to repay in 75 days. He needs to repay 75,000.
Correct. So no monthly payments.
Thank you.
He could complete quickly, and then he also, apart from that, he's got a couple of domain sales himself going through. So I think the other thing to bear in mind, and this is similar to when you have a domain parking portfolio, is that depending on where your tax year ends, sometimes it's advantageous to borrow the money and then spread the payments over a period of time.
Yes.
So people who buy domain parking portfolios might do it because they've got a tax liability that if they buy the domain parking portfolio, that brings their tax down to 0, and then they'll earn their money each month over the next 28 months, for example. So it's a bit of a...
Why? Domain names, do I understand it correctly? Domain names are not, those are not expenses. Domain names are classified as investments. And you buy investments on profit, and
they can be either.
Okay, they can be. So it depends. It depends how good is your accountant.
Correct. But for this particular buyer, it was partly to do with the end of their tax year.
Okay.
So it's advantageous for them to make the payment later on in 75 days. So it's a combination of kind of reasons as to why someone would borrow money.
Okay. I remember having this conversation with my accountant, who explained to me. He said, "Helmut, your domain names are investment. They are not a business expense. So
Okay, I mean it varies. We've used them for business purposes. So we've had websites that were expensible,
okay,
and then
yes,
anything for investment is different. I mean, if you think about it, where someone's getting a really discounted price, on a domain name, and they're going to make the profit up, then it kind of makes sense.
yes.
So there's an application for it.
Okay, and Anthony has a question to you, and of course, keep these questions coming in, guys. Don't worry about, let us say, even if you think that's a dumb question, it doesn't matter. All questions are good as long as they are about the business. So when you roll out the smaller loans and you start seeing defaults, will you be keeping the properties yourself or auctioning them off on a reseller marketplace? For example, Flip.uk. I added the last part myself. Yes.
Yeah.
Brandable.
So
yes.
the most important part of being a responsible lender is that you don't start seeing defaults. Okay, so it's really important that you do your due diligence, you do your research, you have the right people in the right places to make sure that there's actually a legitimate reason for borrowing the money.
Absolutely. Yes.
So in the event there were defaults, then obviously the assets would be forfeited, and then we would either we'd probably sell them off. One of the things that we have, and where the interest rate comes down a lot, is if we have a backstop for the loan.
Okay.
So a backstop is a panel of people that we have that say, okay, if you lend 50,000 on this domain name and the person doesn't repay the loan, we will buy it off you for an agreed price ahead of us issuing the loan.
Oh.
So they're kind of taking the risk away from us so we can drop the rate.
So, and in both cases, you have those guys.
Correct. Well, remember, we're growing our investor.
God, you're good.
We're growing our investor panel. We're growing
businesses.
our backstop. I mean, one of the things is, this kind of verges a bit on fractional ownership as well. And our main priority is to make sure that our investors are protected.
Yes.
And that when we bring domains onto the platform for lending or for fractional ownership, that whoever is stepping into that is getting a really good deal. Because if you look at some of the kind of the alternatives, like Rally Road, some of the domains that have gone on platform have gone on at kind of too high a price. So whoever's invested in those domains are going to have to wait for years until they get an exit on it. So I think it's really important that you understand who you're working for.
Yes. So Joe is saying, "Hey, Joe, that's very clever." And here's a question. Can you see the question? Yes, on the screen. Yeah. So are Web3 domains the future because they are backed by the blockchain, which is safer?
Okay, so blockchain is a really good technology. When you say it's safer, it's not safer. It's more transparent, maybe, in terms of you can see the transactions that are on the blockchain. I don't necessarily think that's safer.
If they decide to do them, that.
Yeah,
I mean, to be transparent.
I suppose what we're doing on our side is we are also later in the year we're going to combine property with domain names. Okay. So when our investors come in, we have access to a lot of discounted property and we have access to domain names. So we can spread the risk across property, which everyone wants to lend on, and domain names, which give you a higher return. Okay. So if you look at FTX, there's a great example, the Sam Bankman-Fried that went bust. He was taking customer money, investors' money, and offering a really insane return. And the way he was generating the return was by investing it in other companies that they kind of owned that were offering even more insane returns. So it wasn't diversified into different asset classes of property, whatever it might be, the different asset classes. It was a bit of a Ponzi scheme that kept pumping up the price. So
just a little.
I think probably in terms of Web3 domains, I think they're really important because what they've done is they've pushed forward the desire and needs of what is needed from a traditional domain name. When I can release the next set of top level domains or GTLDs, the new set, there's going to be huge conflicts because people are going to get .x and all the other extensions are going to come into play. So I don't know what happens between Web3 and ICANN and traditional domains, but I wouldn't necessarily. I don't believe that blockchain or Web3 is safer.
Okay. And would you loan against Web3 domains?
No.
No. Okay. No. That is it. So It actually brings up a good question. Which GTLDs and or CCTLDs against do you issue loans?
I mean, the easy ones are obviously .com, .org, .net.
Okay.
They're quite easy. But there's things like websites. We'll take a holistic view on the website. So where it's quite important is for agencies. Let's say you're a design agency, a client comes to you and says, look, we want to invest 50,000 in a website. We would lend the client or the agency the money to fulfill the work. So
Yes.
there's quite a lot of different digital stuff we can look at. If we know that you've spent 50,000 or 100,000 on your website and you came to us, we would lend you money secured against the website.
Okay.
So it comes down to value stuff.
So you actually like the websites as well, not only domains but websites as well.
Domains, websites, social media handles.
Yes.
In terms of domains, we'll take a view on all kind of digital assets. The thing we're cautious of is, let's say, for example, there's a promotion on .xyz 2 years ago, and someone went and bought 1,000 domains for $1 each, and then they come to us and want to borrow money. We're not going to be looking to do that kind of lending.
Yes.
So we have got the right people in place to make sure that we're lending on the right assets. So
okay.
You know, if someone who's kind of proven in the industry comes to us and they've got justifiable sales behind them, then we'll look at their portfolio, even if it is some obscure domain extensions.
What is the craziest ask you have received so far?
So I've had one which we're not going to do because it's too hard, and that is 3,000.ir domain names.
AR, that's Argentina.
IR.
IIR, that's IR. What's Iran? Iran. Okay. Iran.
Now,
okay.
Iran's kind of politically sanctioned, financially sanctioned, which is why we can't do it. It'd be too much. It would cause too much problems, and things like banking and stuff like that. They're not going to like sending the money there. So that was a recent one that we had to turn down. But the domains themselves were fine. We were okay with it for what they were looking to borrow. But it's just a shame that Iran we just can't do.
Wow. So one of the largest probably Iranian domainers came to you with really premium portfolio, and what was the price he was looking for? Let's not name the domains, but and so 3,000 domain names. What did he want? $100?
$50,000. I mean, if it hadn't been Iran, it wouldn't matter about the number of domains. We could have gone for less domains, but it was just easier to take control of the registrar account than it would have been to transfer. Because the other thing you've got to be mindful of, and where we kind of a bit unique, is we'll lend on portfolios. That's one of the big things. So if you've got 20 or 50 domains, then we would lend against that. Traditional lenders will only lend against one domain name or two domain names.
Mm-hmm.
But it's worth being mindful that if you come to us with 50 domains with 50 different registrars and stuff, we're not going to consider you a professional investor or a professional domainer. Because if you're switching them around, save 10 cents and stuff, this is not the kind of business we want to be in. You've got to be organized. Keep any offers you receive, keep them, because it helps to de-risk things if we know that there's been offers and stuff.
Okay, there is a question. I will put it on the screen, but let us not answer it. Otherwise, we will get into the direction of Web3 domains. So this is a quick comment for everybody who is watching on YouTube, and we will return to the questions that we can stick on the topic. So, Domain Manage says, I think there's a room in the UK for a trusted entity to receive and process payments, loans for domains, digital assets via BACS, Bitcoin, direct debit, PayPal, etc., but UK-based for credibility.
Yeah, I agree. I think, once again, the UK, it's a relatively small place, but it's got one legal system. We're politically stable, we're religiously stable. No matter where you come from, what you believe in, anything in the UK, there's a home for you, and there's never any kind of not some of the issues you would face. I mean, if you look at big YouTubers in America, okay, they'll start off in LA. Okay, they'll make their money. Then they're like, well, actually, I don't want to be in LA. I want to pay less tax. So I'll go to Vegas. Okay. Then they get to Vegas. They become a bit more successful. They're like, oh, do you know what? I don't want to be in America, or I don't want to be in in any kind of that tax things, they end up in Puerto Rico. So if you look at all the big YouTubers, Jake Paul, all of them, they are kind of all migrate down through America into Puerto Rico. And it's that kind of confliction between states and taxes and law that we don't have in the UK. It's really simple in the UK.
Oh, so I think that's absolutely, yes. And if you want to go offshore in the UK, then UK we've got our own isles. You can go. Yeah. Can you?
Yeah. There's a few remote islands you could probably go and live in.
Just few. Not that remote. Not even that remote. Can you name a few of them?
What islands? You got Jersey and Guernsey.
They're kind Jersey, of Guernsey, yes. Isle of Man.
You've got
that's a strange one. Yeah.
If you want to go up north.
Did you know that around 50% of offshores are actually under His Majesty now?
Yeah.
Well, that's British. Okay. Telegram has been selling. Okay, that's awesome. And here you go. How are you valuing the domain names so can decide which domains to land on? A very good question. So what is your process on issuing a loan?
So we're going to look at all the metrics across. So let's take GoDaddy valuation, Estibot valuation, .db number of extensions, potential end users. Have you had any offers on the domain? How many domains do you have? And then some of it where we take a bit more of a holistic view. If it's a website, how much has been spent on the website for SEO design, how much the coding worth. So a bit of a kind of an overall view on things. And then we've got a panel of people that we'll send the domains out to get independent valuations. So if you do the Domain Academy course, they have a valuation model within there. So there's different kind of things we plug into to work out what we lend on. Some of the higher end domains are harder to value. Like,
for example,
a two-letter.com is a bit more tricky.
For example, or.com. I have seen that you have put it up for sale for 2 million.
Correct.
That is kind of a more or less quick sale price.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're not necessarily at the moment. It's out with Media Options.
Okay.
So Media Options are broking it.
Yes.
And we'll see what happens. There's no mad rush to sell it. But some of the, I'm trying to think what I'm looking at. There's a few domains I'm looking at where they might be worth 200,000, they might be worth 400,000, but it's just trying to get comfortable as to where that might be. Because ultimately, we're not trying to buy domains. We're just trying to facilitate someone to get a loan for whatever they need it for.
Yes.
To move on with their life.
And how do you choose people with whom to work with? Are private connections, referrals important? So how do you select people?
What, in terms of people that would be part of our panel?
Do you not the panel? Who actually can submit you domain names and whose domains you're looking to? Do you, or maybe you don't select people at all?
No, we wouldn't select anyone.
Okay.
At the moment. So we're very selective. The loans that have come about are from existing kind of relationships that we have with people, and they've come to us and we said, okay, this is where we're at. Let's write the policy, sort the legals, get all these kind of things together. So at the moment it's closed. It's pointless sending me a list of domain names because we're not looking at it at this particular moment. I'm off to NamesCon next week. But going forwards, you'll be able to go through the website, put in your domain names. The key thing is that, probably another tip is that if you want to borrow money, how much do you want to borrow money? How much do you want? It's pointless coming to me and saying, I want to borrow some money. How much will you lend me? Because if you don't understand your own domain names and what they're worth, then you shouldn't really be borrowing money.
Yes.
Okay, that's the first thing. So how much do you want to borrow? How long do you want it for? And why do you want it? That's really important, is why is it exactly that you want it? And how are you going to repay?
And Joe is following up with a question. So why do the people want to borrow the money? Are the loans for personal use as well as business?
So, well, let's use an example. Probably it's easier to use an example. Okay. On a couple of podcasts ago, when we were on with Sam, we were talking about selfie stick.
Yes.
Okay. So if we use selfie stick as an example, I was around about $6,000 for the domain name. Sam believed he could get between $10,000 and $20,000.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's say, for example, we gave Sam a loan for £5,000. Okay, at say 2% a month. So the monthly repayment would be £100 a month. So he gets his 5,000 day one, and then he pays £100 interest until he sells the domain. And it might take a year, it might take 2 years, whatever it happens.
Yes.
Ultimately, we're allowing him to keep onto that asset while having a lump sum of money for whatever he wants to do with that. And we're confident in that because of the quality of the domain name. And then he will come to sell that in due time for, let's say, 20,000, pay back the 5,000 loan, and then he's made the upside. So I think sometimes people are using it to buy time, or a good opportunity with it is to buy time, because domains are
that's good.
in price.
Yes. Okay. Or if they have a buyer who is, yes, and they know that the sale will happen. Now all you need to do is just wait, but you need the cash now.
Correct.
Okay. That's interesting. Have you got some formulas? Let us say against .coms, the values, the range.
Have I?
Yeah, let us say the range of 3-letter .coms.
Yeah.
What would you value them, and what would you loan them against?
There's obviously a bit of a range with 3-letter .coms, but let's just assume any random 3-letter combination, you'd be looking at about $10,000.
Okay.
Maybe 10 to 15,000 is probably where you'd be at for a loan on a 3-letter.com.
Okay. I just recently saw that you had a tweet where you were selling off. You had a liquidation sale. You sold 2 3-letter .coms for 12,000 each, 1250. What was it?
No, 15,000.
15,000.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was on DN Forum? Yes. Was it on DN Forum?
DN Forum. Yeah.
Yes. And sorry.
We ended up selling one of them to China, to an investor in China. We've still got SVQ. There's been a couple of offers. Some of it's just about having a clear out. Because generally when we buy domains, we'll outbound them, we'll see if there's a potential to sell them, and then if it looks like it's going to be a long-term hold, we may or may not keep them. So we generally put it out where we'd make slight profit, and then, or we would hold on to it for the long term.
Okay. So you are not holding anything long term. You are just trading. This is a stock that needs to be moved.
It depends on the quality of the asset, ultimately. We ended up buying 8 3-letter.coms as a package deal last year. So these were the last 2. So part of what we wanted to do is just close off. Some of it's not necessarily selling quickly. It's just the fact that the numbers that we were trying to achieve, we'd achieved. So we clear out the last 2, and we've got a case study that says we bought for X, we bought for Y.
Okay. And that was for the group of people with fractional ownership, yes?
No, that was us. We bought 8 as a package. 110,000 for 8 3-letter.coms. And I can't remember what we ended up selling for, maybe we've still got one left, but maybe 170, 180. And it took 7 months.
Okay. Are you happy about it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is, you've got to remember that I started professional domaining. Obviously, I had Insight for a few years, but I started professionally last January. So no one in their first year goes and buys the volume of domains we bought and sold. And last year, it was very much a case of buying and then making a slight profit and selling. Whereas now we're looking at longer term holds, because that's where you can generate more money. But last year I sold a ton of domains, and we'd make maybe 1 or 2x on the domains, and it was very much like in 2 weeks later we've sold it across a large number of domains. But going forward, we'd ideally like to hold them for a bit longer. But generally, when we buy domains, they're part of a package. So we say, right, we're going to invest 200,000 in domains. We'll spend the 200,000. They're all part of a portfolio.
Okay.
And then they'll be sold off, or there'll be a long-term hold strategy. But we generally decide before what we're going to do.
So you are giving around 80%, 75, 80% of the liquid wholesale price for the domain names. Is that correct?
In terms of what? In terms of lending?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say probably 70%. There may be variance. We might go a
Yes.
bit higher. So we're a bit more flexible. It might be a case of interest only versus repayment.
And
So
how do you protect yourself against people who will try to dump their domain names?
well, obviously we've got like a series of checks. It's not just
Yes.
valuations, but it's like previous sales. How confident are we? If someone comes to us with a domain name and says, "Look, we've had an offer for 200,000," so this has happened about 3 or 4 months ago. Someone came to me and said, "Look, we want a loan for $200,000."
Okay.
And they said it's out with this broker. He's got an offer for 2 million, but it's going to take some time. So I phoned up the broker and said, "Look, basically, is this true? Is there an offer for 2 million on this domain?" And he said, "No, basically the guy's a lunatic."
Oh
So
God.
I think that some of that is we have to use our contacts to make sure that there are some chances out there. But this is the whole part of what we're trying to build is systems and procedures in place to make sure that we don't get untucked on a domain. Which is partly why, as we grow, I need part of the lending thing. I'm going to need, and this is part of our strategic partnership or hires. We'll have a separate credit committee to underwriting to origination. It's really important that one person isn't all three, because then it's like personal relationships or whatever might be. It's really important that someone has a very mandated role and fulfills that element of it.
Oh God. Was the guy British from the UK?
American. But again, these are the checks we do. Yes. This is the whole part of and being around kind of experienced investors, people who have been around since the 90s, who know the situation, who know if the domain was sold 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and give really good insight. Yes. So part of that's just.
Okay, and here's a question, and of course, here was the thanks for answering. That is about Web3. That's okay. And can you give? Can you do it? The valuation with 5 domains from Dynadot, and how do you value new popular words?
Okay, so.
So I understand. Okay. Sorry.
So if someone comes to us and says, "Look, I've got a really good domain that I can buy. I know the owner. It's at a discounted price," then we would step in and help them. If someone's just registered 5 domain names last year and they're 1 year old and they come to us and want to get a loan, probably not. In terms of popular words, we would probably try to avoid trends like GPT and stuff like that. We would really restrict down what we can lend against.
Okay, and definitely not hand registrations.
No. At the end of the days, we will look back through the WHOIS records of the domain to see what's happened over its lifestyle, over its life journey. If it's not been in existence until 12 months ago, we're not going to lend on it. It's not for us.
Thank you. And what is your budget? How deep are your pockets? Can I ask?
So at the moment, we're looking
just plans. Of course, these are plans. These are just plans. Yes. Thank you.
So probably we'll probably roll out later parts in the year. The later part of the year, probably with about £1 million worth of lending by the end of the year.
Yes.
Next year we'll probably maybe up to 10 to 20 million, I would think, next year, provided we've got the team in place. But we're going. The whole reason why we're starting, because we're kind of in discussions with a few domainers in China, and domainers in China have really prime assets. And the loan sizes are big. You're looking at like 500,000, £1 million, £1.5 million. So the sky's the kind of limit, but we just want to be comfortable with what we're lending on, have a solid team, refine the process, show that we get the money back, and then look for kind of institutional funding. Probably the back end of next year is where we'll go big. So end of 2024, that'll be cross-collateralized with property, and we'll get institutional funding.
So you are saying that there are some big Chinese investors who might need some cash, who might want some cash, and then they would go to you, get it, and then reinvest it. And so the market, what will it do? What will it do to the market We know that loans and availability of mortgages. Let us put it towards the real estate that you know really well. You know the real estate really well.
Yeah.
Once the mortgages are given out, the prices start going up. Is it the case or not?
So so domain values will go up because there's more liquidity.
Yes.
So if we can help domain investors and people to get in and out of their positions to be able to trade more, then the value of a domain will go up over time. It will go up. The thing is that it comes down to the interest rate is often determined by the availability of the money that's there.
Yes.
So we have different people that say, okay, look, I would like to lend out 100,000 through your platform, or I'd like to lend out 25,000.
Okay.
And if there's a surplus of money, then the rates drop. And if there's money's tight, then the rates go up. But over time, the market value of because that's probably the biggest thing for domains at the moment is the liquidity of getting in and out of your position without losing too much money. But it also comes down to the skill at buying at the right price as well.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. So how many loans have you given out at the moment? Two
active loans.
And when did you start working, or when did you start offering these?
Well, so we've been working in the background for a little while, but we've not publicly gone out with it. So even now, like you said about the podcast and stuff, so we're kind of preempting as to what's going to happen, but we're not actively looking for loans. There's some clients we have or people we work with who have got experience, and then we're kind of just working through those kind of deals at the moment before going public. So then we need a really robust system.
Okay, Joe is asking, the money that you are loaning, is it your own, or are you open to private funds?
So at the moment, we're lending our own money. We have got some people who want to, who have private funds, who want us to originate, do the credit control, issue the loan terms, and recover the money. So we are open to private funds. We're just trying to work out. We're probably going to have a private group of people where we push a potential loan out to and see what the appetite is, and say, right, this is the kind of the nuts and bolts of what the loan is. This is security, and this is the interest. The kind of as to partly to scale, we will bring in private funds. So if anyone has some money, they go, okay, I'd rather invest it through the platform. Then we're open to having a conversation about that. And
what would be the minimum amount? Somebody comes in with £1,000, you would not consider that person.
Probably if someone came in at say they had £5,000.
Yes.
If they had £5,000, or let's say £1,000, and they say, look, lending might not be the appropriate kind of avenue for them. It might be better that we say, look, we've got a couple of deals that we're not going to buy domain names, but if you buy it yourself, we can sell it for you on that side. So the lower end money might be better that way.
Okay.
But probably realistically, I would say probably 5,000, 10,000, 25,000 upwards is kind of the minimum level that we'd want to be at.
Okay. As the more you work with people, all these reports and everything. Yeah. Do you enjoy the reports?
I'm okay with it.
Yes.
At the moment, it's quite difficult because obviously we've got the brandable website, the marketplace, so we've got the full visuals, brand identity and stuff. So I'm working with the designers and the coders to get that up, and then obviously we're looking at fractional ownership and loans. So at the moment, there's quite a lot of work on me. But in terms of, we've got investors in the background, so they generally get probably a monthly report. These are the sales for the month. This is what we're working on. These are the kind of opportunities. But I don't mind doing the reporting side of things. It's kind of okay.
When you say in both of your tweets, in one jurisdiction is USA, in another one, UK. Can you explain, please? Thank you.
Yeah. So one company's in the UK, so it's under UK law, basically.
Okay.
And then the one in America is basically done in American law.
So
going forward, going forward, all our loans will be in UK law going forward.
Of course, it is much simpler for you.
Yeah.
Of course, and then just in case everything is just okay. Although the British courts are really, really slow.
Yeah.
Really
Oh,
slow.
more. Yeah. I mean, we would never. It's a contract at the end of the day. So the idea is to responsibly lend to people who are going to benefit from having access to that money. We're not looking to buy domains or anything else like that. We're looking to lend money to people who are going to have a good business opportunity to use that
Yes.
money to get further gains.
Okay, and what are the terms if a person misses a payment? How long does he or she have?
So it's probably worth looking at Dan.com as well when we look at interest
Okay.
rates. So on Dan.com for lease to own, if you have it over 3 years, they'll put a 30% surcharge on the domain name. So they're essentially charging 10% per year for owner financing.
Yes.
If you buy a domain from Dan and you miss a payment, you have 12 days to make the payment up. And if you don't make the payment in 12 days, you forfeit the domain name. Now, so you default, if you don't make the payment on the last day of the month when it's due to be made, by the 12th, they'll give you a final reminder, and then you forfeit the domain name. So we're probably looking to be a bit more flexible, because part of this is about if we've lent the money to people.
Yes.
If we've lent the money to people, we ideally want them to pay us back and move on with their life. So it's not about being hard selling. We'll try and work with whoever's having difficulty if they talk to us. And it comes back to then we would amend our lending policy, because we probably should never have lent it in the first place if the person's in difficulty for something we haven't foreseen.
Yes.
So we also have a duty of care and responsibility to make sure that the money's recovered amicably, so that it's
okay. And here you go. How do you feel about .app domains? And yes, are they any good? Are they any good? A lot of people use apps this year over the traditional.
I mean, app domains are okay. A bit like .ai domains, it feels like they're kind of current at the moment. At the end of the day, if you've got a really strong word on the left of it, or you've had offers on the domain name in terms of lending, then it might work. We only invest in .coms, .orgs, .nets, and .co.uk's. They're the only domains we buy ourselves.
Okay.
So that kind of we believe they're the gold standard.
DEs, FRs, and Ls, 3 strong markets.
To be honest, I don't really know the market that well. In those areas. If someone was looking to get a loan against those domains, then we'd put it out to some of the advisors we have to see what they're worth. But we generally don't do much of them. .des is quite a strong. Quite a strong extension. I mean, the key thing is that whichever country people are in, they're always competing for the .com. So there's like a little league table: Australia, Canada, France, Germany, UK, Australia, and that's why the .coms are so strong, because everyone's competing for that .com global kind of dominance.
Yes, .coms are the tip of the iceberg. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Joe says, yes, I remember a domain name loan company a few years ago. You could list your domains and how much you would wish to loan, and then the individuals would offer loans against them.
So yeah, that was Epic, domainequity.com, but they never really issued any loans. So they never issued any loans, and the peer-to-peer lending is a bit of a funny one. But yeah, there was Domain Equity.
I'm proud Latvian. So Latvians, such a tiny nation. Really, in Latvia, we have the population is less than 2 million, and we are among top 10 world teams in ice hockey.
Oh, ice hockey
with Switzerland.
And yes, awesome. Switzerland. Wow! Yes. Congratulations.
Okay, thanks. some ice hockey news. Yes. Wow, that's amazing. Yes.
Oh, that wasn't football. That was ice hockey, was it?
That was ice hockey. Yes.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
But this year we even beat Czechs, so they're crazy strong.
Oh.
Yes. Oh, we beat
Yes.
Canadians,
Have
Russians before. Yes.
you been in Canada before?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Maybe once, maybe.
20 years ago.
No, not. No. Latvia is doing fine. Fantastic. Always the underdog, and comes up with surprises. That's beautiful. Yes. So, um, is yes, this ice hockey got me off. What about brandable? How do you plan to integrate brandable, and do you
With
with loans?
with loans?
Yes.
We're not planning to. Brandable is going to be a marketplace for buying and selling .co.uk UK domains. So integrated live chat, payment gateways. There's a couple of funky things we're doing,
Yes.
and we're probably looking at mid-June for our beta launch. Hey, Barry's in the house.
Somebody is back from the gym.
But he's in the gym. So yeah, no lending on brandable. It's just going to be a marketplace, and yeah. So and we've got quite a big holding of domain names, so it makes sense for us to have that. And then we'll put quite a bit of marketing behind it as well over time. And then flip will be maybe end of June. The new site. There's a new site going up, cleaner, quicker,
even cleaner. It is already clean. It seems to be so clean. A few things need to be.
There's too much. No, there's too much going on the homepage. There's too many domains.
Yes.
It's littered with stuff that we're probably going to create some kind of bargain bin area, because some of the domains should be starting at £1, not 50.
Oh, okay.
So it just, if someone wants to liquidate domains, go to Flip and
oh,
then we might.
Nice. So if you want to liquidate your domains, you want to start your listing with £1, then
yeah, we'll put them in there. We're going to have a bargain bin section, and then people will pay what they pay for them. So, because at the moment there's not there's kind of a mixed bag of quality. So some of them just rubbish, put them to one side, get them out of the way. But the homepage is just a bit confusing with previous sales and like SEO stuff. It's just not very clear for me on the layout, which I think affects the kind of sales and stuff like that.
Okay. And then if you are starting with £1, then you are attacking domain lore. The prices start there with £50, yes? Or
domain lore starts at 50, but then they've got the hidden gems thing, haven't they? Whereby if they're not keen on the domain, it'll start there. But there's too many domains are going with no offers on. Basically, if you want to sell it, start at £1, then we'll have buyers. We'll line up buyers who will guarantee the buyout at £1 or £5 or £10, whatever it is. The key thing here is that when you put it on the platform, it will be gone.
Bang.
Onto its next life.
Yes. And then if we agree with Ryan, then maybe you will see all that live feed on the sidebar of vacant domains as you see it at the moment. We haven't got to the point where we need to discuss it.
Yeah, originally we were we want to drive people to the platform. So when they see it on Acorn, they're not going to the platform necessarily. So, but we can work out some stuff as it goes along.
Yeah.
We can work out some stuff. Obviously, Bodis integration as well on both sites. So literally flick a switch and your domain will be parked.
Yes.
So that's quite a cool thing. So maybe I think we'll have some big kind of developments certainly by the end of June. Branded will be live with everything working. But we're not going to allow people. We're not going out to the public for another month after that.
Yes.
Just to make sure it's all working and we're happy with what's happening, and then Flip for the end of probably in time for the launch of the domain summit in London.
Awesome. And then of course, whoever wishes to beat you, and the .uk group and your brothers, please come to the London Domain Summit.
Yeah, we're all coming. Jeff's flying in from Canada.
Fantastic.
Which is cool. Mo's going to be there. So it'd be good to meet everyone. I think these events are really important for networking and speaking to people face to face, and you're surprised who you meet. So yeah, it's a really good opportunity for business and
Yes.
domaining.
Okay. Okay. Here's a question. And what is your advice for someone who wants to get in the domain name industry, beginning with outbound strategies? So that is actually your path, and with a tight budget. Thank you. And where is Adam Dicker? By the way, Adam Dicker does his own business. We have parted at the moment. Yes, he needs to sort out his stuff. Yes.
Okay, so all right, it's really important when you start domaining that you buy domains at the right price. Okay, now, obviously it's a bit hard for you to know what the right price is, but if you go to Name Bio and have a look at the domains that sell each day, it's probably a good starting point. I'd be going to, if it's UK's, then Acorn. If it's comms, then DN Forum or Name Pros,
Yes.
and then buy there. The key thing is to try and, or look up GoDaddy valuation, look up .db.com, look how many, like .db above 5 extensions, great domain. If you can buy for say $100, $200 a domain, then before you buy anything, go on Google and have a look at the number of possible people that would want the domain. So you can do that by going to .db.com, type the domain, and it will tell you how many other extensions are being used. The other is go onto Google, type the domain in, and it will bring up a whole list of people who have spent money on their business to get SEO and content to rank highly for that phrase, and then you can approach them. And when you buy a domain for say $100 or $200, then be realistic. Most people won't kind of bat an eyelid at $1,499 or $1,999. So when you go in at that level, just send them an email, just say hi, look, just let you know I'm selling the domain name and thought you might be interested in it. And then you probably need to send 100 emails to get a potential buyer. So you have to be careful when you start out that you don't get locked, that you don't spend too much on a domain and then you run out of money and you're stuck with 3 or 4 domains that you can't shift.
Yes. And don't get overburied in domain names as well. How many domain names?
Correct. Yeah. And when you're starting out, avoid Namejet, avoid GoDaddy auctions, because this is where professional people go.
Sorry?
And I would avoid these kind of online auction platforms
Yes.
where people get a bit carried away. They see the domains and you're competing against the best of investors that know what the domains are worth, who to sell the domains to, how long it will take them to sell, and they've got bigger budgets. So I would be looking at the forums as a way of trying to get quality domain names that are not like overly bids, because a lot of these auction places, the prices can run up quite high.
Okay. Just because they have the professional domainers who know that they can sell those domain names more than an ordinary domainer would.
Yeah, correct. And the fact they've got more access to capital because they've been doing it longer, so they can afford to sit on the domains. They might be okay waiting 3 to 5 years to sell the domain, so they can afford to pay a bit more for it, knowing that they can sit on the money for 3 to 5 years. When you start off, you need to get the domains in and try and find someone to buy them at any kind of profit. That's the first thing, is get the first sale in where you make profit.
Okay, that's awesome. Barry's saying, oh, so I was too coming. So is Barry coming or was coming?
He's coming, I think.
He's coming, of course.
I think he means coming on the podcast.
Yes.
Next week, apparently, he's going to come on and talk to us about some of his big domain deals.
Okay. Okay, I'm waiting for one big guest as well. For one, and Barry would be awesome, big guest as well. So that's awesome. It is great to see that we get more and more domainers in and hear the stories and ask the questions. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Okay, and the process. If somebody's watching now, they have those 3, 4, 5 3-letter .coms, and they want to get some cash, and
Yeah.
I think that
yeah, I mean, if they want to, you can email me, ryan@digitalcandy.uk.
Okay.
With the domains, I'm happy to have a look at them. Just at the moment, I don't want to be flooded with loan inquiries, but I'm happy to look at some. I'm happy to look at some. Bearing in mind, I'm off to NamesCon on Monday.
Okay.
For 10 days, so we're not. But I'm happy to look at anything if you want to email them across. I'm happy to give you my opinion on things, and then see where we go from there.
So Ryan@digitalcandy.uk.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. I suppose
You're welcome.
that is short. And thank you for sharing. Usually people would not share things like these.
Remember, if you want a loan on Acorn Domains or DN Forum,
No.
I'm happy to talk through the monthly
No.
repayments.
No. I'm so cautious. Thank you. I'm so cautious. Ryan, I even do not want to have the risk. I'm happy. I could take a loan. I could take a loan for Acorn Domains and DN Forum for £10.
Okay, deal.
For £10. But then you need to pay the renewals for the domains, and you need to host both forums, and you need to make sure that they are live.
Okay,
Otherwise,
yeah.
there will be penalties.
So what we can do then, we'll give you a £10 loan for them. We'll cover all
Exactly.
renewals, other costs, and everything else. And the interest rate is 10,000% a month.
Well, then there are some UK laws that would disagree with that. They were introduced like 7-8 years, I think, ago. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. that is the way how some people actually get loans against their cars. Sometimes safeguarding them like that is cheaper.
Yes. Yeah, remember, it's really difficult to get a loan against a website.
Of course.
Especially when it's new. Even in business, if you buy a business, it's very difficult to get a loan against it.
So thank you for the kind offer. I always said, you are smart. God, he's good.
Just trying to help out,
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Ryan, and have a great evening. And this was a very, very good, well watched video. We had around 20 people watching all the time.
Cool.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.